Weapons good day, Moors. That's where I stated within the Moors died, and that's going to jump right into
part of it. Yeah, my fault, man. It's okay, I can get it.
It's all right. I just wanted to get into a religious controversy. That's page 14 in most Moorish guides. Mm-hmm.
Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have the sister that needs to-
It's all right.
Who's up? Have a second, brother.
That's all right. Take your time.
Here it is.
Found it?
16 in this
Okay.
book.
Yes.
14, 15. Right here. No, it's not. It's a page not in here.
It's not anything.
No, on 16 is not in here.
14.
Okay. Well, in the book here it says, right where? Oh.
It's all right, Sheik. Don't worry about it.
You're gonna have to see.
It's fine. In this age, there is still much religious controversy as to the right thing. Big and powerful ministers have come to the conclusion that something is wrong. Some say it is the Ten Commandments. Others say there is a lack of sincerity in the purpose of the churches. Still others think it is all worthless and not fit for the time it takes to attend them. However, whatever their final decision might be, it is certain that they'll make a change, or rather try to make one. The fact of the matter is that they have always had only a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. Like one who holds up to the sun a mirror and casts a few of its diverted rays in a different direction, so have they done with the truth that is supposed to have come from the east. They are but a few people who know what the truth is about man, and that few know that it's foolish to try to impart it to the ignorant. Although the ignorant has finished college, he is a fool right on, being trained to jump through a hoop. The longer he stays in the schools, the better he can jump, and the more vivid he will defend his jumping. From the east comes all light, but though the sun is hanging high at noon, the blind cannot see. Ooh, I just want to stop there and just build on that. So from the east comes all light, but though the sun is hanging high at noon, the blind cannot see. Anyone has an interpretation on what the prophet is saying?
Go ahead, Brother Fly.
Islam, Brother Flying, exercise some senses, brother.
First I rise, and I give all praises to Allah,
Mhm.
the Father of the universe. Give honors to Noble Drew Ali, honors to Marcus Garvey, honors to the Grand Sheikhs, all the sheiks, and all the members, and anything pertaining to Islam.
Islam, honest to you.
Islam. Thank you. I see it. He's saying that from the east comes all light, but though the sun is hanging at high noon, the blind cannot see.
Mhm.
You just read that these people are learning from in the schools, and they're not learning the real stuff, the real truth.
Mhm.
So I see it as the prophet is showing them that the direction of wherever they're getting their knowledge from, which is here, is not the truth, and that it's coming from the east, because all the light shines from the east.
Mhm.
So that's how I see it.
Islam,
They're not getting the
okay.
truth.
I'll build further on it. Islam, Sheikh, Shati.
You have to add further to it. Our knowledge comes from the east. Though we have eyes to see, we don't see.
Mhm.
Though the sun shines high at high noon, you know, though it's high noon, nobody recognizes it because they keep practicing dark practices. This is what the prophet is really saying.
Mhm.
You know, you accepting customs and teachings that are not of your own, you know. And so like, even though they're educating you to jump through these hoops, you can jump through these hoops better than you can take the time to see the damage that's being done to you. That's the way I interpret that particular passage. I mean, it takes me to several things, but that's just one of them.
Islam. Brother Mark.
Islam, I'd rather give honor, praise to Allah, His Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Grand Sheikh, all honorable members in attendance. Islam.
Islam. Honest to you, Brother Mark.
Well, sometimes I interpret that as, you know, we know or we've taught, you know, the sunrise in the east, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying information or the knowledge comes from the east, right? But in our in the institutions that's indoctrinating our foremothers and fathers, or our ancestors, our grandmothers, and so forth and so on, you know, they're not necessarily expressing these truths to us. They're just giving us a form of what they have took from the East, right? And so they're just giving us a regurgitation of that. But if we don't look deeper into that and use our common sense, and if, as he's saying, right, the knowledge is in the East. It's coming from the East. The sun rises in the East. These are all natural things, natural occurrences. So I just, that's just my thought.
Islam.
Islam.
I'll go two directions. One of the Brother Flying Go and Sheikh Shatik version would be like one who holds up to the sun a mirror and casts a few of its diverted rays in a different direction. That explains the fool who defends his jumping in the scholastic system and belief that what he or she is doing is correct. So it appears to be the truth because I have my master's degree, so I must be right. But not really. So you just took the few sun rays and cast it in a different direction just to make it look like it's truth, but it's not. And in the halls of the masonry, we know from from the east comes all light, which is knowledge. But though the sun is hanging high at noon, so at 12 p.m. the sun is at its highest pinnacle.
That's right.
Though the blind can't see, so on a hot summer day you can see the sun. But that's like how saying the truth is right in front of you, but you still can't see it.
Yeah.
Islam. Just a little. Where was I? Okay, the same is the Islamic creed from the East was brought to the Asiatics of America by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and offered to those who were sick at heart. Tried for many years, yet they are blind and cannot see the light. Also, knowledge. So light and knowledge is synonymous. Nor is the prophet trying to put new wine in old skins, for he knows that it will burst them. Still, he has the only remedy for the nations. The remedy brought by Jesus, Muhammad, Confucius, and all the other prophets, which remedy is truth. The nations do not want the truth. It's too stern. But until they accept it and find out where it is, there will continue to be religious controversy. And just before I conclude this little demonstration, you have to agree that the truth is too stern because there's a lot of brothers and sisters out there that know that they are Moors. They know we are Moors. But what we're dealing with is too stern for themselves to take on this journey. So they stay in the Christianity school systems, the Sunni Islam school systems, knowing they have the truth or the light the whole time, but they're not willing to commit to what it's all about. Which is another reason why there's always be religious controversy. Because that also takes them back to defend their school of thought. And the longer that they've been in those institutions, the higher they're going to jump to defend it. Islam. And with that, I'll go right into what is Islam. This is the very next page. Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his or her duties towards God Allah, his or her creator, and his fellow creatures. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surrounding. It is preeminently the religion of peace.
Mm-hmm.
The very name Islam means peace. The goal of a man's life, according to Islam, is peace within everything. peace with Allah and peace with man. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, tells us that the final abode of man is the house of peace, where no vain word of sinful discourse will be heard. The holy divine prophet, Noble Ali, says that a follower of Islam is the true sense of the word and ones whose hands, tongues, and thoughts do not hurt others. Object of a man's life, according to Islam, is to complete unfoldment. Right? As man unfold,
God unfolds.
for today is God, tomorrow's God.
To man, tomorrow
Is not.
To man's not.
Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. That's why we have to continue to unfold. So basically, I mean, I think a while ago, if I don't know if everyone was here when we had the demonstration on the unfoldment and why we unfold. If not, just to touch on it a little bit. So it says also in the Quran that a wise man debates back and forth with decisions, and a fool does not. That also goes towards unfoldment. So I may see something I may see right today, tomorrow I may not, if I'm elevating and trying to reach back and ascend back to Father God Allah. So your thoughts and directions must change as you evolve. Islam.
Brother, unfoldment, will that also include, say, like, I'm on the same path you as we talked about a few weeks ago, and I think Brother Nawiel mentioned that, like, the first three steps is
Faith,
Belief,
and
fruition.
and fruition. So wouldn't that be in line in what you just
I would say that would totally be in line with unfoldment on the physical plane perspective, but then unfoldment is also like internally, or that's the duality of it as well. So physically, unfoldment is belief, faith, fruition, and then internally in mind is to unfold thoughts and higher vibration, higher vibratory rate. Because again, as you unfold, so let's say today, let's say, you remember you could say now, you say, back when I was young, that was okay. And then as you grew up, right, as mind unfolded, you realize you did a lot of foolishness things.
I thought as a child, I did
And
things as a child.
Islam.
When I became man, put childish things aside.
Brother Don?
Just to make it, knowledge goes through stages.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, something at one time might seem right. Not necessarily got it wrong. You just out kind of your mental capacity or your understanding has grown so much that not that that's bad, but
You find a way of
else to
doing the same thing differently.
better.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is knowledge is infinite. Yeah, knowledge is infinite. So that's another perspective of mental unfolding. So you can never really be capacitated with knowledge. It's going to always evolve.
it's a shift in your psyche.
Islam.
Yeah. Well, for me, that's what I'm experiencing. A shift in the psyche.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Islam.
In those same three first steps.
Mm-hmm. And you have to. Without those steps physically, it'd be hard to unfold internally.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Islam does not support the idea that man was born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within them the seed of the perfect development, and it rests solely with himself to make or march his fortune. The cardinal doctrine of Islam is the unity of Father Allah. We believe in one God, Allah, who is all God, all mercy, all power. He is perfect and holy, all wisdom, all knowledge, and all truth. These are some of his great attributes so far as we can understand. Because in the physical form as men, we're capacitated with our abilities. That's why they say man, which is finite, cannot comprehend things that are infinite. Islam.
Islam.
And that's another reason why we can't see him.
You just made a statement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to lose my thought. Can you read the statement just above before you got there?
The cardinal doctrine of Islam is the unity of the Father Allah. We believe in one God, Allah, who is all God, all mercy, and all power. He is perfect and holy, all wisdom, all knowledge, and all truth. There are some of his great attributes so far as we can understand.
I lost my train of thought. Just
Islam. He is free from all defect, holy and transcendent. He is personal to us insofar as we can see his attributes working for us and in us. But he is nevertheless impersonal because he is infinite, perfect, and holy. We do not believe that death, decay, or sleep overtake him. Neither do we believe that he is a helplessly inactive and inert force. Nothing happens without his knowledge and will. He neither begets nor he is begotten, because these are traits and frail of weak humanity. The unit Islam. Go ahead before you lose it again.
No, the seed, right? The seed, perfect planted seed.
It teaches that everyone within them is the seed of perfect development
Right.
and rests
So
solely
now,
on
right,
himself.
sin, right. That was where I was going. First of all, there's no way you could be born in sin. You're born in a world
Full
where
of
people
sin.
are full of sin. When you're born, you're perfect. You don't know right from wrong. You just know love. Everything is love with you. You know, when you grow inside your mind, develop, you're taught these things. These things of hatred is taught. You know, sin is self-inflicted negativity or self-inflicted nature. You know, so yes, you have the power and capacity to not sin and to do perfected things in your actions. But always in this flesh, you're going to have a fight. That's why it's a constant battle to getting from defeating lower self and rising to your higher self.
Islam.
That was where I wanted to go.
Islam. And see, I know that to be true because after you say that, instantly what jumps into my head is what is man is truth and falsehood, strange and mixed. Islam. The unity of Allah is first and foremost pillar of Islam, and every other belief hangs upon it. Islam. That concludes that. Any questions on the floor? Call again. All right. Gratitude, family, for letting me demonstrate.
No, but thank you. You were spot on. Islam. No, do it. Islam. See what I was saying earlier about Islam and the different religions? All of them hang upon Islam. I mean, so with that being said, thank you, Brother Omari, again for that beautiful demonstration. Thank you, Flor, for your powerful input. I really felt enlightened, though I don't feel well. Y'all making me feel better. But with that being said, I'm gonna bring up Lord Nature, Grand Sheik of the Temple Number 10, Lord Nature El Bay. He shall be up here shortly. In the meantime, I'll just stand here and look out at y'all until he get here. But here he is, and I'm getting ready to get off the podium. Islam. Thank you. Islam, Grand Sheik.
Islam, my beautiful family.
Islam.
I rise in the name of Allah, giving honors to our noblest prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, our affectionate leader, giving honors to all our women, our sisters, our children, giving honors to the true faithful Moors and the American citizens, giving honors to our foes, because without a foe, a soldier would never know his strength. And it gives us the ability to develop and to exercise that strength and to unfold to our godhood. Islam.
Islam. Almost to you.
So I'm going to hit a couple different points, but before we move forward, was there any questions still pending from what you've heard so far? Anything pertaining to the questionnaires or the one-on-ones or anything that was brought forward thus far? Islam. So we always start with the questionnaires, which is referred to as the 101s. And that is the basic elementary foundation for the Asiatics when they come into the awareness of their nationality and of their birthright. So this was produced by Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So this is why I call it the elementary foundational lessons, is because it's the first set of lessons that is introduced to members, initiates, when they come into the Moorish Science Temple of America. So although it says Quran questions for Moorish children, it's not to be taken as literally just children, but we all are children of the Most High, and we all are children of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So it pertains to all of them, all of us. So some might just have unfolded a little bit further than others in the studying of them. And as you get deeper and deeper into other sciences and other lessons and other schools of thoughts, you can always refer back to the questionnaire as a foundational pivot to whatever else that you're dealing with out there in the world. And even I use it as a point of law. And also I have taken them into courtroom demonstrations as well. And remember, it's called the questionnaire. So also they can become questions that you might not just have for yourself, but once you master them, those same questions can be used to challenge those that's putting demands and allegations on you as far as being Negro, Black, and colored, and corporate entities and artificial persons and this, that, and the third, or subject of this and that. You can go back to your questionnaires. Once you have that foundation, you can go back to your questionnaires and pretty much set yourself on a equal footing with the rest of the human family. Islam. So we have an earthly salvation, we have a divine salvation. So as we deal with our earthly salvation, we deal with more of what we call our civic lessons. The word civic pertains to citizenship. So we're citizens of something. That's part of what we need to find out for ourselves. Regardless of what level we're on, we have to realize and understand that we are citizens of something, of some government. If we say that we're not, then we're referred to as stateless person. If we're referred to as a stateless person, then we wear the same identity and classification of that of a slave. So citizen just means to cite. Citizenship, when someone asks us, what is your citizenship? They're asking you, what do you cite? Meaning, what do you declare? Noble Drew Ali said that to be a citizen of any government, you must proclaim your free national name. All right, so I'm just showing you the similarities and the protocols and prerequisite for citizenship and government, how government works. So it's not just what someone else doesn't declare citizenship for you. That's not how it works. You have to declare citizenship for yourself. And then that can be acknowledged or dishonored by the government that you're claiming to be a citizen of. So that's why we have to satisfy the prerequisites or requirements of citizenship of a government structure. Because if someone or some group of people have a government structure already in place, then there's rules and regulations that go along with that structure. So you can't just say that you're a part of the structure without following the prerequisites to go along with how do you become a part of that structure. So that's what citizenship it all entails. That's what the Moorish Science Temple of America encompasses from a lower elementary level from our earthly salvation perspective. Then it deals with higher sciences that shows us how to reach or how to deal with our divine salvation on a divinity level. So we deal with both simultaneously. But in order to deal with the divine, you must first be able to at least address your earthly state here, meaning your physical tarry here. You in the flesh, you in the body, us in the body. We have to deal with that. And if we don't deal, because that has rules and regulations as well. So if we don't deal with that, then we can't really address the divine salvation. There will be no divine salvation if we can't address the earthly salvation. That's why this has to be studied together. Islam. We deal with life as we know it in the physical. We deal with it from a duality perspective. Duality means dual. Dual means two. So if you notice the pattern that's given to you in the Moorish Science Temple, which is symbolic of the outside world, we talk about man and woman. We talk about positive and negative. We talk about higher self and lower self. That represents duality. You have a Eastern and Western hemisphere. So you're dealing with duality once again. And you're dealing with truth and falsehood. So we learn life through duality. We learn who we are or what we are through the principles of duality. We have a sun and the moon, which are reflections of each other, no different from duality. Duality represents two, but actually when they polarize, they become one. And that's our nature. And that's what we have to learn in order to be able to master self. To master self is to master duality.
That's right.
To become one again.
That's
Or
right.
knowledge of self. Self, the word self represents one.
That's right.
But it's plural again. It's duality. The Quran teaches us that no man lives unto himself.
That's right.
So when you're dealing with it from a higher science perspective, self don't mean me. Self don't mean you. Self means one. It means all of us.
That's right. That's right.
Islam. So these are the principles of how we were taught, because we're coming out of a Negro state of mind, which this was never taught to us. Mathematics was never taught to us. So we don't understand self, we don't understand life, we don't understand duality, we don't understand math. That's why customarily, that's why we were bad in math. Customarily, most of us.
Yeah.
There are exceptions of people who were
Right.
fluent in math, but as a people, we were bad in math in school. But it was deliberately done so that we wouldn't really reach higher frequencies in life.
Absolutely.
Just like history.
That's right.
We call it history.
The history.
Some say history as a subject. They call it a subject, right? Then you have other social studies, math, reading, and they call all of these things subjects.
That's right.
And the way the curriculum was taught to us, it was taught where we wouldn't be able to completely unfold. So we will always become the subject because we can't master the subjects. So there's a science behind that. But we're labeled as the subjects. Slave also is symbolic with subject.
Absolutely.
And subject, I'm fine for a minute. Thanks. If we break down from an etymology perspective the word subject, what does it mean? This is open to the floor. Yes. Absolutely. Below.
Right. So below.
beneath, right? So the mission was for us to always be below or beneath whatever else was the subject matter. So if we are beneath or below, then according to law, it means that we're not equal. So the whole demonstration of us becoming a citizen or becoming into the constitutional fold of government is to become equal. That's citizenship. Citizenship is based, that's one of the important reasons why we have to become citizens, is to become equal, or to be at least referred to as being equal, to be treated as equal, to be acknowledged as equal. Freedom or free, because we hear the free national constitution. We hear the term free national being. Well, free is considered equal. Declaration of Independence speaks about being equal. The Quran starts off at the Mohammedan's temple. These lessons are for all those who love Jesus. Not a mystery spook Jesus, but these lessons are for all those who love freedom, to love equality, equilibrium. That's what that is on a higher level interpreted as. Jesus means justice. Justice means equal. So the whole, I heard someone speak about the Bible earlier. The whole Bible, which is referred to as the Helios pages or book, is the Sun book. So what it does, it interprets the movement, the constellations, the celestial system, characterized by human people.
That's right.
That they gave names for to describe or interpret the movement of the celestial government, so that human beings can vibrate the same as the celestial system.
That's right.
In flesh.
Islam.
That's what all the scriptures are really, the vibration that it holds. That's what it holds. How it's interpreted is different. How people may take that and manipulate it for other reasons to cause another behavior outside of that. But I'm just giving us the facts that it's a mathematic book.
Absolutely.
And the book is written in truth, but it's not interpreted that way.
No, it's not.
So this is why also the prophet says that don't throw away your Bibles, because he's going to use it to condemn the government. Well, why would it condemn a government? It will condemn them because they are held to the standards of the very book that they're claiming to be the law of the land. But they're not living according to the book. And the reason why they're not living according to the book is because the masses of the people don't understand the book, as well as they don't understand the law or any of the books that they're using. But once we understand it and overstand it, we can be able to demand the standard of it. And that's how the government will be condemned, is once we understand it in whole, we can now hold them to the standards of what it represents. But as of right now, they wear the clothing, the rank and the noble clothing,
That's right.
and we think that we're subordinate to their stations because they use the book and other books where we think that we're subordinate to them.
That's right.
So they don't have to be held to a standard because there's no one to hold them to the standard.
Absolutely.
Islam?
Islam.
But it's not just them because government is a reflection of self again. So self, again, we understand that the government starts from us, from not us as a race or group, but us individually.
That's right.
We are government. Government always reverts to the people themselves.
That's right.
And that's how we understand government, is by understanding that we are an intricate part of government. Government can't exist without the people. And through the connivances of the law, we allow the government representatives to dictate their style of government or how they want government to roll. And then we think that we're subordinate to them, and we allow them to put statutes and demands and rules and regulations on us, and then they tell us that we violated them, and then we go down there and pay the fine. So this is something that we have to, again, is a reflection of self. Again, the prophet's teachings don't point the finger at anybody. It takes that finger and reverse it back to us. And this is the problem of the day. We talk about the issues of today, but we don't talk about our issues. And we got to understand that the reflection of society is a reflection of our household. So you got to think tribal for a minute. You got to think common law for a minute. So before any of this escalated to where it's at now, it all went back to tribal. How did we conduct ourselves in tribes, in villages? And this is why it's also important to go back and look at old Western movies, because a lot of the Western movies will reflect how common law was actually dealt with.
That's right.
And the role of government.
That's right.
A lot of the old stuff will reflect that.
Oh, definitely. That's why they took it off the TV.
And it's still there. Some of it is still there, but it's not the preference. Shows to watch today. It becomes, oh, that's the boring stuff. I don't want to see that.
No, what I mean is, Grant, it's still there, but they got it syndicated now. You got to pay to see it. At least in New York, you got to pay to see it. It's not as common as it used to be for us. Excuse me.
So, common law is culture, or custom, or also termed customary law. So when we think common law, that means also descent. That means to go down or to come down from, to descend from. So law is descendant. And let me explain that. I say law is descendant, meaning that law comes from someone, from some group, from some people. Laws just don't exist modern day, just out the blue. And those that do are amendments, modern day amendments that's created by modern day legislation.
That's right.
Which most of the time holds no merit. However, as Moors, we were instructed to go back to the state of mind of our forefathers. So the whole purpose of declaring more, or to proclaim to be more, is to reflect back, to go back. So everything, we have to go back to a point of reference in order to catch back up to even go forward. So it's like we got to take a step back in order to go forward. And that's the mindset that we have to get into. If we want to, we do have modern day teachers and leaders that we look up to, and we read and look at videos and things of that nature, which is cool. But the mindset, we have to go back prior to that generation, back prior to that state of reference, even with the laws. We have to go back far as we can go as a true reference on what to do, how to conduct ourselves. So if you really want to know about being more, like the questionnaire tells us that it asks us, why are we Moorish Americans?
Because we're descendants of Moroccans and born in America.
Yes. Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. So the whole nature of that nationality is for us to go back. It tells you that America does not exist without the foundation of Moroccan being present first.
Islam.
So Moroccan predates American.
America, right.
So you cannot be an American, nobody can be an American without acknowledging their descent first.
That's right.
No one. That's why he says every nation must declare a descent name of their forefathers to be known and to be recognized. So that's a standard for what you would call American jurisprudence. That's not just a Moorish thing. That's a standard. If the Italians, the Japanese, the Turks, the Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name before the constitutional government of America, is no more than right that should be forced on all other American citizens alike, which means those who claiming to be Negro, blacks, and colors must do the same thing. And also those who are claiming to be white must do the same thing. Because white and black is not a nation, and it's not a decent nation.
Status.
And it's not a government of people that exists. So therefore, white and black, according to race, is outside the constitutional fold in government.
Islam.
And Indian. Just throwing that out there because some people think that it's another alternative. Any questions so far? Islam.
Crystal clear, bro.
So I spoke about duality, and we have to view nationality from a duality perspective. We ever heard the term dual citizenship? Well, it's dual in the nature of your descent, which is Moroccan, Moorish, Canaanite, Moabite, etc., is ancient. However, it's a part of your custom. So you must proclaim that culture, that heritage or inheritance. Also, you have to proclaim to be a part of the modern day citizenship in America. So it's like you're declaring and proclaiming two different cultures, because the American modern day culture is different from your ancient forefathers' culture. So we have to simultaneously do both at the same time. And that takes a lot of artwork to try to do, because of it does clash to a degree. But the American jurisprudence, again, that I speak about, or American law, is rooted within Muslim customary law.
Islam, absolutely. Islam.
So it's not personal to Moorish. Well, we proclaim Moorish, but once you really become knowledgeable, it's not all about Moorish anymore. It's just about being who you are and who you claim you are, which is American. So what I mean by that is even Americans, modern day American culture was founded based off the Mosaic codes. And that's something that you want to make mental note to on what the Mosaic codes are. That's Muslim law. Noble Drew Ali on your nationality card, at least on ours in the Moorish Science Temple, because some people do make different nationality cards. But specifically on ours, it says, I now declare you a Muslim. That's very important. Because he said you must proclaim your free national name and religion.
That's right.
Why? To be recognized by the government in which you live and the nations of the earth. Now, most people don't know that predominantly most of the earth's people or so-called religion is Islamic. The question asks is that a new or old-time religion? That's an old-time religion. So we got to take that word old now and break down the lesson of today. Descendant, to go back, to come down from what? There was something already in place prior to us proclaiming this. We're proclaiming something that already exists. We're not making it up. And we can't change it either. So we can't declare and proclaim something that already exists, but then change how we do it or change what the interpretation of that is. And some of us not knowingly do that just in language. And maybe by not having a proper teachings and literature, sometimes we fall victim to those tricks.
That's right.
But we have to proclaim our free national name and religion. That's why he says, I do declare you a Muslim. He didn't say I declare you a Muslim.
No.
He said I declare you a Muslim because it's a different interpretation. And it's a different jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
And it's older, language-wise and customarily wise than Muslim. So it's a point of reference of what you're going back to, and then whatever it is you're going back to, we're talking about time reference. You're going back to a time reference, which creates a standard, also creates a behavior to go along with it. And once we mimic that, that's how we acknowledge as that. I'll give you an example. When you meet people and they realize they can see you with a turban on or fez, or you're talking about Moors. Now, whatever their teachings of Moor is, they're going to let you know. Oh, I know about the Moors in this country, the Moors in that country. Whatever their information base is of Moors, they'll talk to you about that. So now, when they hear Moor, they're going back to a time reference of what the people look like, what they dress, whatever language they spoke, whatever land that they were from. And that's what rings a bell to them when they hear the word Moor. But it's supposed to be the same thing with us. We're saying we're Moor. So we have to set the standard on what Moor today is like. So that they don't just think Spain, Portugal, Northwest Africa, or wherever their thought pattern is. They have to know what Moorish American is supposed to be. That has to become a standard, which it has become a standard. But that's why it's important that we have to study the lessons, because the whole nature of the Moorish Science Temple is to create the standard of Moorish American. Being descendant of Moroccan and born in American, that creates a whole nother jurisdiction now. Now, what does that look like? How do they speak? What do they wear? What laws do they go by? You understand what I'm saying? Now that becomes a mystery to modern day information because it's considered new. So most people don't know the standard for that. Their standard is what they read about from other lands. What did you say, Flango?
I was saying Mosaic law.
Islam. So that's what I meant about the dual nature, the dual citizenship. Now, the citizenship, we're not citizens of the Kingdom of Morocco. Let's make that clear. We're citizens of this constitutional government here, known or styled as the United States of America. And we have to learn and master that citizenship if we want to have constitutional protection and recourse according to this government, which means that we don't exercise a foreign governmental policy, meaning that we don't pull the laws up from the Kingdom of Morocco, we don't pull the laws up from Egypt, because some of us think we're Egyptian. We don't pull out the Egyptian constitution. We have to pull up the Constitution of the United States of America. It's no different from the Bible, that you have to use that document because that's referred to as the law of the land. You have to use that to condemn the government and condemn yourself if you're outside of that. Do we understand that? So we got to be careful because a lot of Moors are interested in foreign law and foreign policy, which is cool to study that, but we have to be able to first master domestic policy. Because if we don't know domestic policy, we can't get into foreign policy. We're not going to be successful. And usually when you start talking foreign policy, you abandon your constitutional law of the land. The Constitution of America is referred to as the supreme law of the land. So supreme means what? Say it again.
Mastery.
All right, Islam, give me another reference. What else was
Highest.
highest? Thank you. So supreme means highest. So I want you to understand this. The Constitution of the United States of America is the highest law in this particular land. So Drew Ali said, help me to save my people who have fallen from the highest laws of the land. And through a misinterpretation, sometimes we still fall short of the highest law of the land because we're trying to exercise other law that's not even pertaining to the land. Yes, sir.
I'm just asked a question.
Mhm.
Treaty law higher
Higher than what?
the supreme law of the land of this land.
That's a good question. And there is no yes or no to that because it doesn't pertain, the treaty doesn't pertain to land. So the treaty is not higher than the Constitution on the land. The treaty is not enforceable on the land. The treaty is a maritime document
That's right.
that pertains to people crossing water.
Crossing water. That's right.
So if there's a conflict domestically with citizens as a part of the same land, then the treaty has no jurisdiction, it has no merits in that case.
That's right.
So it's not about being higher, it's not even applicable. And this is why, again, understanding Drew Ali didn't make reference to the treaty too much because it wasn't applicable to the subject matter at hand. Now, it is the highest law when you're talking about citizens crossing jurisdictional or crossing water. Now it becomes the highest law of the land. And the Constitution has no merits. When you're dealing with citizens, that's citizens of different nation states, then the Constitution is not the document that is used to judge that matter. Now that's when you have to get into international law with your treaties and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had a great uncle who was a big.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Marine Corps, he used that treaty
Mm-hmm.
to save me from going to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I see that as him using that alone
Mm-hmm.
against this corporate law.
Mm-hmm. Islam.
So sometimes it can be used in things. So,
Mm-hmm.
because I see it in my instance, it's used in my favor.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not versus corporate law because the Constitution could be considered corporate law because it deals with corpse, with your bodies, and is between two or more people. From that perspective, it's could be corporate law, but from corporate artificial law, it's not the same. So the Constitution of the land wouldn't be considered corporate law. I know that's not what you meant, but I'm just clearing it up because there are people listening to what we're talking about. So it's important that we still understand the treaty because the treaty might become a document that we have to argue. And it can be used according to what you're dealing with. And when you're dealing with the issues of Vietnam, now you're crossing water again. So it is applicable when it deals with a situation of maritime jurisdiction, which is what you're talking about. But again, when you're dealing with disputes between the citizens of the same government on the same land, then the Constitution is the default law pertaining to that jurisdiction. So that's why we have to master that because most of our disputes are going to be domestic. And the protection of our citizenship and our inalienable rights is rooted within the constitutional law.
Absolutely.
The Constitution is a guaranteed protection towards our inalienable and substantial rights.
That's right.
And this is why we have to hold them to it. Because that's where our protection is. That's our weapon. That's one of the greatest weapons, is that Constitution. Regardless of who wrote it, you know, there's a lot of discrepancies on who wrote it, this and that and third, and it is irrelevant. Because even they themselves, which are considered the founding fathers, said that they hold these truths to be self-evident.
That's right.
That every man was created equal. So they said that we hold these truths to be self-evident. Therefore, there shall not be any subordinate or unequal people or slave people that exist. Because they themselves even admitted that they hold these truths to be self-evident. Therefore, like Drew Ali said, since the Constitution has been enforced since 1774, declared all men to be equal and free. Since that Constitution has never been changed, there's no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of my people and the citizens. So there's only one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and it comes from the above statements. So again, this is Drew Ali's words, just putting it into a clearer format. We hold these truths to be self-evident. So when we proclaim our nationality, we're saying the same thing. We're proclaiming those same words. We're saying the same exact thing, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. And that's the nature of your proclamation. You have to understand your proclamation. What are you declaring? What are you proclaiming? You're not signing up for something to become a member of a corporation or a member of a temple and to do this, that, I mean, although it has activity. But you got to understand the true nature of why we're here. Why are we proclaiming our free national name and religion?
So that we may be free.
So we have a reciprocal responsibility. Once we say that, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Now we have a reciprocal obligation to everybody else, regardless of what they look like or what creed they may be. We have to treat everybody equal. And when we don't, then we violate our own law. And now karma comes in that, well, we'll be dealt with how Allah sees fit. So that's why we also have to be careful how we treat people once we have these turbans and feathers on.
Oh, absolutely.
That's right. It's already dependent on it.
And Drew Ali's statement was, when the Moors get back on top, that we have to treat the Europeans just.
Just.
Just means what?
Right. Fair.
Right.
All of that.
Yes. All of the above.
But it also means equal.
Equal.
And we didn't do that at one time. That's what got us into the situation that we're in now. That's why we're here in this building, is because we didn't follow that universal law in the beginning. So again, this is part of understanding our history and why we are dealing with this karmic return. This is a karmic debt.
That's right.
We talk about national debt and money debt, and we got to understand where that comes from. You know, we got to fix the solve. We can't address the national debt in the deficit of the so-called dollar without understanding the debt from within.
That's right. Right.
The karmic debt that we cause to be. We have to fix that first.
That's right. Recognize.
From within self.
That's right.
Because everybody has a different value. Everybody's worth something different. Metaphysically and civically. And it's based off how you view yourself and how you deal with your affairs. Determines your wealth and your value. So that goes into a whole nother story. Because we are economically disadvantaged, what they call minority people. So part of our value and our lack of wealth is based off our mindset.
Islam.
And that has to change in order to be recognized by this government and the government of the world or the earth. Economically, we must change. So it ain't just what we think. This ain't all about going to court and getting something dismissed. That's really a minute situation. Even though it might give something, it might have relevance on some levels. Something comes your way, you have to deal with it, yes.
Yeah.
But that's not the overall reason why we're here. We are trying to become better citizens. we're trying to unfold into being Moors. The Moors were, I'm gonna just use the word were because I'm dealing with past tense right now. The Moors were rich.
Yes. Beyond measure.
They use this whole African theme as saying that Africa is a very poor country, but Africa is not a poor country.
Not at all.
That's what they want us to believe. And they want us to believe that we were slaves and indigent and all kinds of slavery type of realities, but that wasn't the case. That was a case for a very small period of time. The reference was given in that same document, the 101s, where slavery started in 1779. So even though it's a time reference to 1865, which we know it continued after that, but even if you went from 1779 to right now, so-called 2000, where we at? I don't even know anymore.
Actually,
2019. So Islam. So that's still a small period of time of life
Islam.
known to man. So if slavery didn't start to 1779, you're still talking about 400 years. Prematurely. So what about all of the other thousands of years? What was the deal then? You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So if we're going back again in our mindset, if the whole nature of our proclamation is to go back, then we supposed to also be looking at the economic status of back then.
That's right. Absolutely.
And even though we didn't have all this new technology and things, because that don't make wealth, that you can't measure riches by new technology either. But the Moors in government structure control all of the world's resources.
That's right.
We know the stories. Islam, thank you. We're trying to get out of tax debt now, but the world paid taxes to the Moors.
Okay.
So we got to look at, if we really want to stop paying taxes, which is a lot of people's goal, we don't necessarily have to look at the codes to find out how to stop paying them taxes. We need to reverse that whole reality of to the time period where we wasn't obligated to pay taxes, where they paid taxes to us.
Exactly.
How do we go into that mindset?
That's right.
How do we make them pay us?
Teach grants.
You understand? Where is another level I'm talking about, because some of us stuck in the realm of how to prevent, what laws can I use to stop the bleeding? And we don't go past that reality. How do you make someone pay you? You know, so that's an agenda and a lesson that needs to be dealt with, all within proclaiming your nationality. That should become your mindset and your goal, and that's what you should teach your children and your grandchildren. How to become entrepreneurs. How to control resources, how to control land, because that's where the wealth is at. Then we don't have to worry about some of the employee issues that we have. We don't have to look for employment, look for jobs, look at classifieds. You know, not saying that we shouldn't do that right now. You do what you have to do, but that, again, that should be more of a goal than some of the goals that we involve ourselves with. Our goals need to change. Because when you go back and again to the Moors and the Turbans and Fezzes, they didn't pay taxes to foreign nations.
No, we did not. Right?
Foreign nations paid taxes to
us.
the Beys.
That's right.
They paid tribute to the Beys.
That's right.
So the Beys paying tribute to somebody else was unknown and is a modern day demonstration. That's the truth. So right now they get a kick out of it that the Beys are paying to them.
That's right.
So again, that has to be reversed. I want to read an excerpt from a convention of 1928 of the Moore Science Temple of America. This was the agenda of the convention. Does everybody know what a convention is?
Gathering of the regions.
Mm-hmm. The word convention means to convene.
That's right.
But governments have conventions.
That's right.
Yes.
They convene all the time.
There's even corporations have conventions. Some of your bigger ones.
Absolutely.
Even churches have conventions.
Absolutely. All
Right.
organizations.
But we don't want to depreciate what a convention really is from a political or constitutional convention. This is what I want to explain. Yes, sir.
Think that like a convention, like they have to do that before they pass a law?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like a convention, as far as like George Washington, they have a convention
Mm-hmm.
before they did the Bill of Rights.
Absolutely. And that's where, like you said, that's where a lot of the laws are amended. A lot of the stations or seats is up for re-elections and things of that nature. We're in the midst right now of national election time. So the whole wavelength, and if you turn on the news and CNN and all of that, all you hear is election, 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 because this is election time. So, November's election time, but October is really the heart of the footwork of the election information. So people looking at who's running, candidates, who to vote for. People's seats is up for re-election. So new people coming into office. So this month is popular for conventions, constitutional conventions. Other parties is not necessarily government, but might be agent of government. They might have conventions just like churches. Churches is not necessarily a government entity, but they function like some.
Absolutely.
Fraternal organizations are not necessarily government entities, but they function like them. You understand? So they all have conventions because they follow the constitutional format.
Absolutely.
So this is why we need to think like that, because we need to be taking our place in the affairs of men. So we need to be attending something politically. We need to be at some convention because it shows that you are at least politically sound. Especially as a nation within a nation, government within a government, we got to be politically aware of what's going on. So the first convention of the Moore Science Temple was in 1928. Same year that the nation was declared. As further proof also to show you that this is a government. just background information. But I just want to, there's Moors now this week, along with other governmental entities that's having conventions all over the country. So I just want us to be in that mindset, even if we're not physically there, we still could be taking our place from our own household, just aware of what our responsibility is as citizens of both the Moorish American government and citizens of the United States of America government. We got to be aware that this is election time and be able to make wise decisions and useful influence, if need be, in a certain area. So this is from October 16th. The first convention was held at Unity Hall, which was at 3140 Indiana Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to point out at 7 p.m. to midnight was a welcome address by Honorable Louis B. Anderson. Alderman of the 2nd Ward. Do we know what a ward is? Anybody know what a ward is? Not a ward of the state. I know we know what that is. Islam.
It's like a particular jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Can we get more defined on what a ward is? Islam.
It's also like a room that holds like beds and stuff like that too also.
Yes, but that's not, I'm talking about from a political perspective. From like a brother Omar is explaining the jurisdiction aspect of ward. Yes.
A ward is a part of a municipal government body.
Yes.
It's a district.
Yes, it's a district. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you. And I'm only saying that because we're here to all learn. So we have to understand these things. According to what jurisdiction you might domicile in, that'll change. A lot of communities don't even use the ward system. So that's why if you're not a part of a ward system, you won't know about it, most likely. But there's other citizens in other areas that are a part of different wards. Like bigger cities, a lot of times are broken up into ward systems. And that also helps you understand sometimes when you file in documents and you don't understand where to go because you have a county clerk, you got a city clerk, and it's different clerks. And with ward systems, it becomes a different situation because they might assign more than one clerk according to the ward of the community. So usually when you're dealing with the populations, the bigger populations usually default to the ward system because of the population. And then they might change the way that they, again, the city clerk versus even the police department will be broken up into different wards, things of that nature. And they only have jurisdiction in that particular ward system that they are hired by or whatever speaking. Islam?
Islam.
So Louis B. Anderson was the alderman of the 2nd Ward of the city of Chicago. Honorable Daniel Jackson was a committeeman of the 2nd Ward and Illinois Commerce Commissioner. Mr. Jesse Binger was the president of the Binger State Bank. Now, I'm covering a lot of information, so just try to just reflect and take mental notes of this because you want to go back at a later time and really understand and study some of this stuff. But Mr. Binger was the president of the Binger State Bank. He was also present at the first convention of the Moorish Science Temple. So all of this has a reason, but this is your history. Honorable Oscar DePriest, Republican candidate for Congress, was also present. Honorable Robert Jackson, Alderman of the 3rd Ward. Honorable George Blackwell, State Representative of Illinois legislator, was present. Richard Ross, Master of Ceremonies. So I brought that to your awareness to show you that these were statesmen, so-called statesmen, but these were people who were politically active in the community of Chicago in 1928. That's where the home office and the seat of the Moorish government was at in Illinois, 3140 Indiana Avenue at that time. That's where the seat of power lied within the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's where Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple, that's where his home office was. That's where Unity Hall was for the Moors. That's also where the convention was held at. Everybody clear on that? So within the convention of the Moorish Science Temple, although that there were lots of Moors there, these were referred to as guest speakers. So a guest speaker is someone that you invite to speak, obviously, right? But why would they be asked to come speak at a Moorish Science Temple convention? This is how you have to study, and this is how you go through history. Red flag got to go off. Okay, why would these people be asked? And this is, like I said, this ain't modern day where there's all this other stuff going on. This is Noble Drew Ali himself inviting these people to speak. So now, just based off your own interpretation and information right now, what do you get from that? Why would he ask these people to come speak? Let other people exercise. I know you know the answer. Islam Marisha.
Basically, you want to basically be recognized by the local government, local state government, I see, and as well as he's according to what he said that they're going to help him.
Mm-hmm.
That the government, the Europeans, was going to help him obey the law.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing that they're in cahoots with him following the law.
Islam. Absolutely. Anybody have anything different? Islam, Brother Mark.
I would say, in my opinion, the reason is to show the Moors as becoming a new nation how to run a government.
Mm-hmm.
So he had guest speakers, even though he might have known that they was Negro black color, but they still was able to show the formation of government, like the process.
Mm-hmm. Islam. I like that too. Fly and go.
I see it as because the prophet just proclaimed that us as a nation, that the Moorish nation and the American nation was coming together as one unit, and that's why he invited them to come speak to show the unity that between the both governments.
It's not. I'll do it later. It's not. Yes, sir.
To uplift the people to a business corporate mindset.
Islam. I like that as well. All of the above. What everybody said was correct. She?
Mine was in conjunction with what the Grand Sheik. I mean, the Prophet formed this as a governmental organization. So he wanted the Moors to see after he raised them up to a certain level thinking. You want them to see the functions of how government functions. So there's no better way to do it than to bring governmental officials into the temple to let them see that he put this government in place to exercise Act 6, to let them know why he wrote Act 6.
It's not. It's not.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanted to add also to bring both nations together
Mm.
and show, like you say, Act 5 is not to overthrow or causing confusion.
Mhm.
So he kind of mixed them both, so we to
Mhm.
teach the people as well
Mhm.
how to coexist.
It's not. Absolutely.
Which is your lesson, duality.
Yes. And that's very vital and important, and it sets the standard. This is my statement now. In conjunction with everybody said, it also helps set the standard of what the Moorish Science Temple needs to follow, the platform that needs to be continued, what this is all about. Remember, he was raising people up,
That's right.
like what was said. So meaning that some of these, the citizens wasn't aware of what needs to be done, what this is all about. I'm proclaiming my nationality. Okay, now what? What's the next step? What do I do now? What is this all about? What's the end result of this nationality card?
Absolutely.
And the convention will help set that standard for you of what you should be doing in the future. Because he said again, out from your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. So by having legislation and different people there, he's showing you that you need to take their seats in the future. Although they might, because a few of them did eventually proclaim their nationality, as far as the guest speakers. That's also a part of your education that you will find out when you do a little bit more studying. The first congressman, Asiatic Congressman Oscar the Priest, did proclaim his nationality. So there's other information that you will put the pieces to this puzzle together. But the point is that out from our meetings, from our assemblies, should come people that eventually will come sit in seats of government on that side. Not just sit in our temple and play grand sheet, play this, play that, but to go outside and take our affairs and take our places in the affairs of men. That we will become the future alderman, the future legislator, the head of a president of a bank or whatever out there needs to be done, because that's where the connections need to be. We need to have Moorish connections on that side of the government. So we don't come just dormant and subject to what they do. In order to make changes on that side, you got to have representation in there. And that's what it comes down to. So he was showing us the blueprint in 1928. This is why I'm showing this now, because we shouldn't almost 100 years later be sitting here trying to figure out what we need to be doing. It's already clear. It's just that if you don't have that proper information, then you're not going to know what you should be doing. And that's why we go over this information. That's why the Moorish Science Temple was put in place. That's why it should be continued and be continued from the proper standard that he left it in. However, it took another path and start doing other things. Even to the conventions today, you're going to see that this formula is still not followed. You don't have these guest speakers at the other conventions. So how come you had it at the first convention, but it's not at the convention 100 years later? Something's wrong with that picture.
Absolutely.
And I give honor to the fact that the temples are still standing and conventions are still present. But the real issue with it is the citizens of the Moorish communities at large don't really understand the convention still. They don't understand their role as members. And they don't understand what leadership's supposed to be doing. So therefore, no one's really doing their job. So the conventions turn out to be more of a social event, which he made the statement back then that this is not a social organization. This is a government. But we're not listening, and we're still treating it as a social organization.
Yes, Grand Chief. Absolutely.
Again, so you don't blame who's in the White House for what's going on today. You can't blame Trump for the condition of the government. No different. You can't blame the Grand Sheik for what's going on with the Moorish Science Temple. You got to blame the citizens. You blame the citizens for what's going on in the White House, and you got to blame the citizens for what's going on in the Moorish Science Temple or in the Moorish community at large. When the demand for de jure government exists, then leadership will follow suit and take their place. Now, what am I talking about?
Say that again.
I said when a demand for de jure government becomes present,
Right.
the representatives of government will then take their place.
Want me to respond to it, or you want to?
If you would like to.
Yes, I would like to respond to
Yes.
some of it and leave it to the rest. I will respond to it by saying this. The day that the American citizens accept the above statements, this will be one of the greatest countries in the world. If the above statements are not adhered to, the worst is yet to come, and I'll stop right there. That's what it means to me. Puts me in the mind of the plea to the nations. That's where it takes me to. Now each one has his own exercising of their own thoughts, lessons. So that's where mine stop at.
Islam, no.
I will also say, add on to that is, he said I would keep the prophet, I would keep the European in seats of government long enough to teach you governmental structure. That's what I hear. Is your coming back to play.
Islam. So I'm gonna give you an example of that statement as well. You now have a republic if you choose to keep it. We're familiar with that statement? That statement was made hundreds of years ago.
That's right.
So we talk about the republic, which, yes, the republic was supposed to be guaranteed by the Constitution. However, the citizens are not vibrating on a republic level. I'm not talking about Republic Party.
No.
I'm talking about a republic mindset. Therefore, we don't have a republic government. But we still blaming outside entities for not having a republic style government when it's not their fault, it's the citizens' fault.
Islam.
And the example was it I just gave.
Absolutely.
Even back when it was declared, the statement was made that you now have a republic if you choose to keep it. They didn't keep it for very long.
By Thomas Jefferson.
Even themselves didn't keep it. The ones who declared it.
That's right.
Did not keep it.
Didn't keep it.
So this is why we are in the situation we're in now, meaning that we're still talking about is it a republic, is it a democracy, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're still confused on that, and it's really based off the mindset of what the republic even represents. And Brother Omari opened up by saying, people don't want the truth because the truth is too stern.
Too stern. That's right.
People don't want the Constitution.
Because it's too stern. People
don't want a constitutional government. we really wouldn't want them. When I say them, I'm talking about like the tribunal system right now. We really wouldn't want them to enforce the Constitution. We really wouldn't want that type of society. And I'm talking about the people at large.
Islam, that's true.
Just like most of the westernized society could not make it in an Eastern society.
Oh no, definitely not.
Most of us wouldn't be able to survive in an Islamic country based off how we were raised here. Where they don't care nothing about constitutional law like we say. Because the law is rooted in justice. So they don't necessarily have to talk about a constitution like we have it written here. Their society is a whole lot stern. And if you don't honor your mothers and your fathers out there, then you're done. You're not accepted, not just by the family, but you're not accepted by society.
Nation itself.
So what Drew Ali said, that you're in prison, exiled, and all of
That's
these,
right,
you suffer
that's
from
right.
all mistreatments. You really see that more in other countries than you will see that here.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of them is not right and exact.
We can't go over there talking about we don't follow that. You wear fez in an Islamic country, but talking about you not into that religion stuff. You ain't into Islam. Go over there talking that and see what happens. Well, they not having it. And they not going to honor us. They ain't going to bow to you. They ain't going to give you the utmost respect. They're going to get rid of you. No. So just closing on the convention idea. Convention usually takes place between October 15th and October 20th in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And also other institutions might also carry things out during that time period as well. You know, and it also changed at one time in September. Some people still acknowledge, but that's neither here nor there. Just topic is the mindset of what convention really represents. Now, even if you want to be aware and conscious of what's going on, you could take a trip to one of the conventions one year just for your own, experience, just to get involved with what's going on and what they do. I mean, without being a member of that particular jurisdiction, because it's not one convention anymore. That's based off the fall of our people. In 28, there was only one convention. 29, it was only one convention because there was only one Moorish Science Temple, meaning that only one jurisdiction of the Moorish Science Temple. Being that Prophet Noble Drew Ali passed form, and people started to take the movement into their own hands. They created several different divisions of the Moorish Science Temple. So because of that, now you have several different conventions. So one is no more legit than the other one.
That's right.
And you're going to see different styles at one convention versus another convention. So it's going to vary and differ according to the different mindsets of the people and throughout the temples. So that again will be something that has to be overhauled and changed.
That's right.
Once the people at large creates the demand for a more de jure government.
That's right.
So the more the time advances and people start to think law, they start to change how Moore Science Temple operates.
That's right.
So we're coming to that awareness little by little, but it's working because that for generations, the Moore Science Temple was asleep. You know, so by the new Moors keep hitting the hammer, you know, keep hitting that nail with the hammer and
That's
keep
right.
driving home the truth.
That's right.
The way the Moore Science Temple has been operating has been changing.
That's right. That's true.
You know, so if you know the timeline and you read the history and you see it, you'll have confidence that it's working. You'll see change. You'll see that it's on the right path. But you have to take your place in it and don't just step outside and say, well, I ain't dealing with that. I ain't with that Moore Science Temple stuff because they, you know, they don't have their stuff together. Because you're gonna suffer as well. Because we're all one, regardless if you say that or not. You're affected by what the Moore Science Temple does. So it's better if you want to change what the Moore Science Temple is doing, you have to become a part of it to change how it operates. Because then you'll have a voice, no different from government and citizenship. You want to change how the United States of America system works, you have to become a part of it constitutionally. You have to have a voice in it. You have to have a voter's registration card with
Absolutely.
your Moore's name on it in order to go down to the poll and tell them how you feel.
That's right.
But as long as we shout and march and go on YouTube and say how we feel, that's not changing anything.
Nothing.
That doesn't change government.
Just a tinkling brass.
Islam? So is there any questions before I close out?
Just one
Yes, sir.
question that was just on my mind. As far as the government heads that were invited to the first meeting
Convention?
convention,
Mm-hmm.
would they have been of different so-called races, or were they basically just on board? Should we say Moorish descent?
The people that I named,
Say black, yes.
yeah, they were mixed. They were varied.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of them, you know, they were European as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. They were
just
mixed.
So definitely.
Because you're talking about people who were sitting in governmental seats at that time. And again, you even had the president of the Bangor Bank, which is relevant because when you're dealing with Moors of a nation, we were taught and told to support the same banking system. You know, that's another level of what we're talking about. But because the Asiatics didn't control too much, like Brother Mauricio said, Drew Ali had to deal with the Europeans. Those were the ones that were in position to help. You know, so a lot of Moors couldn't get things done without the help of Europeans. That's why he made the statements that they're helping me, why not you? You know, so, and that was very positive to show too that, you know, we're not a prejudiced people. You know, we're not in that mindset like, you know, I'm not going to even repeat what some people would say, but we don't deal with that. You know, we're taught love and we're taught we deal with everybody just. You know, nature knows no color line. So we don't deal with color and race from that perspective. Somebody's in a position to help. If we're in a position to help someone, then we do it because we're talking about the human family. Period. And when we deal with it from the teachings, then we love everybody equally because everybody was created equally. So we'll be violating our own law to even deal with division and separate anybody according to race or creed or their religious belief. Islam? Islam.
I just wanted to add one thing, Branch.
Yes.
About what we were speaking about, what we was building on earlier about the convention and
Mhm.
like the war.
Yes.
I have my voters registration card.
Mhm.
It says Board of Elections, County of Westchester, State of New York, dash United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says city or town of enrollment. It has Mount Vernon.
Mhm.
Then it has Republican. Then it has ward,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has district 21.
All right.
Then it has voters, I think voters something number here, and it has the number here. And then it says date of registration 11/03/2017. And then it has Reginald A. Lafayette, Douglas A. Colity, Commissioner of Elections.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says we certify that Latingo Zamael Bay at the address. That's it on the card. And then on the back, it has signature of voter. So I autographed it on the back.
All right, Islam. So according to local government and state government is concerned, you are eligible to exercise your voice in government. You have satisfied with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali stipulated in a divine warning for the nation to go to the polls, cast a ballot under your free national name and not under a granted privilege, which has been the condition for many generations. Islam. Now, also a point of reference on that voter's registration card. You mentioned citizen of the United States of America. Now, is it abbreviated? Does it say U.S?
No,
What does it say?
it spells out the United States of America.
All right, that's an important clue. Because the classification of citizenship that most people are forced to fill out and on other IDs and documents says U.S. citizen. But when it comes to the voter's registration card, you must be a citizen of the United States of America because there are no citizens of the U.S. So a U.S. citizen has no power to vote in government dealing with United States of America. It's two different entities. So we must understand how they interchangeably play semantic games with citizenship. But we have to be aware of that. You know, again, you just don't roll over that. That's a red flag and say, hold up. Why does it say this on this document? On this form, on this document, you got U.S. citizen. Is that the same government? Is that the same citizen? No. Again, the nation is United States of America. That's the government. The Constitution is the United States of America. There is no U.S. Constitution. There is no U.S. citizen. You are citizens of the United States of America.
Right.
The nationality card that Noble Drew Ali issued says the same thing as that voter's registration card. That's the only ID from them on that side that you're going to get that says the United States of America on it. Not unless you are a pilot. I'm serious. Research what I'm telling you. If you are an airplane pilot, then they will put your nationality on the ID. A pilot's ID says citizen of the United States of America. It says nationality, United States of America. Why? Because a pilot deals with international relations. A pilot has to go overseas. And when he goes overseas and he has to present ID, they don't deal with that fiction. So that's a clue. That's a key to show you that why would they put that on a pilot? That means that they're conscious of what needs to be said, of what international relations stipulate. That also means they're conscious on why they put it on other stuff, why they don't follow suit with that.
Absolutely.
So if a pilot, you can have a pilot to live next door to you. Why does his ID say he's a citizen of the United States of America, but your ID says you're a U.S. citizen? but he's your neighbor. That should show you something. Say it again.
International law deal with nations.
Absolutely.
You have to have a nationality to be part of a nation.
It's not. Nationality is the order of the day. Always have been. But that's our problem, and that's what we need to address. Islam? Islam was, I will turn the meeting over to Sister Mo.
Islam.
Islam?
Yes. All right, everyone. Our Moorish children at MSC have begun their journey in Tai Chi. We are thankful for donations towards their $50 weekly fee. So to all regular members, if you can donate $5 each towards their weekly fee, that
Islam.
would be.
Thank you for that. So what she's saying is the children started their dojo classes, and their membership with the dojo is being supported by the temple, by the members. So they're just asking for donations to chip into their. How often is it?
It's weekly.
Weekly?
Sunday, yes.
All right. So every Sunday morning at what time?
12 o'clock.
At 12 o'clock, the children, the Moorish children, whoever wants to attend, can attend the dojo. And they're learning Tai Chi. Islam? Islam. So now we're going to have the reading of the laws before we close out. Brother, we're going to have the reading by Brother Omari.
Islam. Additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. Grand Sheik and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the member to sacrifice, finance, etc. That will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws are subject to be removed from his office under heavy restriction, etc. by the Prophet or the Grand Sheik. Act 2. All members are to attend their ad-up meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, they shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go into your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he or she is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation, and if he or she does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any agitation against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are here to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and their teacher must conform himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise his or her 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America, then you are entitled to the name faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam? I'll almost ask for all Moors to rise for the closing prayer. Face the east. Feet on the 45. 5 fingers on the left, 2 on the right. Repeat after Sister Faraja. Islam. May Allah find our hearts and minds. Forefathers. Divine freedom principles. And this we ask in thy holy name. In the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam. Meeting is now closed, Morris.
One of my brothers, he transitioned and he gave me this a couple of months back. So I wore it because I want you to see it. I want one the same way. Now that I see you have one, I want black.
You want a black one?
Yeah. But then also, this one here. African brother gave me this, right? And I like the size of it, right? I want one like this. I want it to be burgundy with the green. All this to be green. Right?
Just like this?
Just like this with green. But this size, it's a little like, you see how the sleeves are on me here? I want the sleeves to be, you see how your sleeves are? Come down and go on. I want the sleeves like that. Yeah, I got the pants to it too. With the pants as well, but I can find it. I want to bring you that so you can get a physical view of it. So we can just, never talk about it. So, we gotta do it.
This is fun. The pants, you just bring
Well, I want to promote the business.
I'm just
Yes.
Right.
But the pants,
So, right?
I want the pants long. The size is cool and everything, but I just want it long. The suit is good. I just want it long, arms a little long. Everything else is cool. But I want, like I said, for this, for the one that I would like for you to tell from me. Yes, sir.
You want to bring them both at the same time? Or you
You can go ahead and hold on to that, and I'll bring the pants next week. And then we'll just, because actually, what I want one of these made for me and the young note.
Same thing.
I want to have the same thing. Right.
And something for the Moabites. I want us to all have the same.
Okay. How you want to same
But see, wait. All that to get done, but right now, I can bring something that will tailor to that to be equal. Right now, we're just going off of this blueprint for me and the young girl. We're gonna get something from her. She's not excluded. She's included, but right now, this is what I got. I'm just trying to put that in the mind for me and the young girl. We're gonna get
it. Actually, if you still got my number, I'm going to get my materials from in DC.
Oh yeah.
I'm going back next week.
Okay.
So I'll pick it up.
Yeah. And then
We going to DC. We always go to DC.
Yeah, I go like at least I try to go once a month. That's why I get my materials from. They got the
we going on the second of
they got
next
the
month.
wholesale.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
Section
Uh-huh. So, but let me ask you this, why you, now, what's the price difference as opposed to why you go there as opposed to coming out to New York?
Really, my primary reason is just really just to travel.
Copy. No, I got you, right, to get out,
Yeah,
get away,
because I
right.
have a place in Jersey where I can get kind of the same thing.
Okay,
same price,
yeah.
But I enjoy the travel.
Yes, well, enough said, I already understand, I got you,
It's like I have to go.
Right. You wanna get out, something to do, travel, yeah, I got you, you can build out that way, yeah, right, I got you. Copy, understood. Yeah, so, now I just wanna look for, outfit for her, I'ma pick it, and I'm gonna have to make the same way, so we all gonna have the same thing, but I'm bringing
So would it be
something that I
best
like.
with the material you just want to make it enough for all three?
Yes, you can, yes, you can, and then, I'm not sure, what's the ticket gonna be on that, but, next week I'm bringing the band, we'll probably discuss that, and then, I can give you a little something toward that, right now, and then have a, we'll discuss it. Right, and then, I definitely gonna want one of these, I'm definitely gonna want one of these again, I like that black. Right. So, I think I may have to add that in on the order with this. You may have to give me one of those with that. Because you're right. Wintertime, this is, all you gotta do is throw the phone. Exactly. And then this is so light, the colors. No. We're gonna duplicate that. I want him to make it. Another brother gave us some, I want him to make one for me. Just how to make it. Yeah, you can show it, you can tell. Burgundy and green.
You can taste it in your smell.
I know what I still want to get to. Keep to home. I got a couple. You want to switch it? But I think I'm glad to travel.
it's on. Oh, it's still on? Oh. Oh my goodness. Somebody turn this off. Okay, thank you. Oh, we're still on. End stream.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Oh my God.